Hi, this is Jay with BE Power Equipment. Today we're going to go over the maintenance procedures for the I3500L digital inverter. Okay, so let's review some things we're going to need to do the maintenance procedure. One of them is going to be some dunnage. The dunnage is going to be required to elevate the generator up off the ground. And the reason you're going to need to do that is because the generator's oil, when you're getting the oil out of the unit, is going to drain down through the bottom of the generator. So over the height of whatever you're going to catch your oil in, a pan, an oil dray pan of some type to catch your oil. SAE 10W30, the unit does take 0.6 liters of oil, so you're going to need at least that plus some just in case. So oil. You're also going to need a funnel to put the oil into the actual casing, a pair of pliers, 6-inch socket extension and the ratchet to go with, a 10mm socket, a spark plug socket, Phillips number 2 screwdriver. I always bring a pen so I can jot down when my service interval is been conducted so I can keep a bit of a log so I remember. Safety wise, a pair of gloves, keep your hands clean, and a pair of safety glasses, stop any shrapnel from getting your eyes just in case. And then when you run it, it is an inverted generator, so it does run at a very quiet decibel, but a pair of earplugs is good to have around. So the first thing when you're looking at the generators, you're going to notice there's a compartment right in the front at the control board. That's where your battery's stored. A little tip to kind of prolong the life of the battery if you're storing it and you're storing it for an extended period of time. You know, I'd always say 30 days or, you know, over a month before you're going to actually get back to her. It's not a bad idea to open that, disconnect one of the legs, or put the battery on a trickle charger. It is a maintenance-free battery, so there's no maintenance required, but it's always a good thing to kind of keep that in the back of your mind so she's ready to fire up when you want it to be ready to fire up. So it's one fastener, you basically disconnect it. There's 2 tabs in the bottom of the plate that catch into the actual mold of the generator. You'll have a rubber cable that keeps the battery in position if you're moving it so it doesn't rattle around. A J-clip that'll disconnect on the bottom. By pulling on the rubber strap, it will pull the battery back out of the casement, disconnect the one line, reverse the procedure to put the battery back into the generator, making sure you're fastening that rubber strap down the J-clip so she doesn't move around on you when you're using it or rolling it to your next camp party or hunting party or whatever you're going to use the generator for to power. So reclipping in the bottom of the J-clips, we'll fasten the plate back in and then just fastening that number 2 Phillips drive pan head bolt, and that will lock the casing back in place. Just a tip. So let's start the maintenance procedure on the spark arrestor, which is located on the muffler of the generator, the back side of the generator opposite of the control panel. This is the only maintenance you'll have to do on the back side of the generator, and make sure that the generator has been off, not running, and is in a cool temperature just for safety. Doing the procedure, you're going to need something to clean the spark arrestor. I recommend a wire brush, an 8mm wrench to remove the spark arrestor, and then to pull the fasteners, there's 6 of them, you'll need your Phillips drive screwdriver. So there's 6, 3 on each side, and we'll go ahead and proceed with removal of those fasteners. So once you've loosened the 6 fasteners, you're going to grab the top of the actual cover of the faceplate and stick your finger in through the actual muffler opening on the cover. When you do this, just be careful you don't lose any of those fasteners, because when you're going to pull them out, they're going to want to drop out. So let's move the back plate back off of the generator. And you'll also lift it up. There's 2 catchment molds on the bottom to clip the cover into the actual generator. Then you'll use your 8mm wrench and you'll remove that spark arrestor off the back of the actual muffler. Okay, so now we've got the two 8mm bolt heads to remove the spark arrestor. This is what it's going to look like. You're going to want to inspect to make sure it's not plugged or it has creosote built up on it. If it does, you can actually remove the element out of the actual spark arrestor. Proceed with cleaning with a wire brush to make sure that there's no plugging or fouling in the spark arrestor. And then once it's clean, reinstall into the actual mounting bracket, and then reinstall the mounting bracket back onto the muffler. So let's proceed with doing so. A snug fit on the fasteners is all you need. You don't need to overly crank down the fasteners. Then we'll return to putting the back cover plate onto the actual genset. And you'll do so by reversing, so there'll be the clips at the bottom. You drop them into the actual catchments in the mold. Then moving the cover in alignment and threading the fasteners back into their location. Great, so now we've concluded the maintenance and inspection of your spark arrestor on the muffler. Everything's back fastened up and ready to go, and we'll move on to the next. Okay, moving along with the maintenance procedure. As you can see now, we do have the dunnage underneath the generator, and the generator is elevated so that my oil basin can clear and get directly underneath the oil basin. And I'll note further in the video where the drop down plug is in the bottom of the generator where the oil will drain out. And there's two fasteners to remove the back cover here, so it's a very easy and fast procedure. Number 2 Phillips, so let's just unthread those. Once these are loosened, it's a very easy procedure to pull the back cover off. There's the gas tank catchment, which is a rubber piece, and you just want to lift that up and you'll see a tab. Sometimes you might need a little bit of a poke to kind of get that moving forward. Once doing so, you just cam the whole thing forward and you'll have a few drop-in rivets, rubber rivets that unclip, and then picking the back plate up, you'll have 3 lock tabs that grab on the bottom of the mold. So removing that, that portion is out of your way. Now revealing the back of the motor, and again, the motor should be cool. You should watch the temperature, make sure that it hasn't been running for a while. The first thing I typically inspect is the air filter. That's the easiest thing to kind of get your hands into right away. So you'll need your pliers, and that's it. So you'll see the outflow air line that'll have a C-clip on it. So you just use the pliers, give that tab a squeeze, which then removes the actual air line back. You just pull it back and away from the actual canister of the air filter. On the bottom side, you'll have a clip that you just cam forward, declipping, and then it'll drop down. And then pulling from the bottom of the air filter canister up and back, it'll rock forward, and then there's a little catchment at the top that will declip, and you'll hear a clip. And then you can remove the actual canister casing. So once that's removed, you can now access your air filter. It's a foam filter, and you'll remove that straight back and out of the fitting. There we are. It is shaped so that when you go to reinstall, it's very easy for you to install. Cleaning the filter, you want to take an inspection. Cleaning it in mild soap, water, in a bucket, and then just cleaning that out and making sure you let it dry very well before you reinstall. There is also air filter foam oil that you can apply to the actual foam filter, and that is recommended. So make sure that it's not soaping wet with oil. A mild coating of the oil will then condition the foam filter. Once that's done, relocate the filter into the actual canister and reverse the procedure, working with the top clip first and rocking that up underneath. and then the bottom, and you'll actually hear a click when everything kind of cams back into the canister, making a nice tight fit. Re-engaging the bottom J-clip and camming that forward, locking in position. With your pliers, pulling down on the actual metal clip and pushing the air line forward onto the actual line, releasing, and that grabs on. And that completes the air filter maintenance procedure. So now we're going to inspect the spark plug, part of the maintenance procedure. Spark plugs, again, are located in the side panel, the same one where the air filter box is. You're going to see OHV. The spark plug is located. There is only one of them on top of the OHV. You'll see a cable. You basically pull back on the cable and give it a little wiggle. That'll back off the spark plug cable. Also in there is a water jacket boot that will come off with the cable, and then you will have revealed the spark plug head. So to remove the spark plug, you need your spark plug wrench. I always like to stick an extension. 6-inch makes good clearance. So engage that and your ratchet. Engaging the spark plug and then backing it back out of the boot. Once that's completed, you want to inspect the spark plug for fouling, gap tolerances, and all of that's located for specifics in the actual manual. So, or you can call technical support if you need help with that. Reinstallation of the spark plug at that point is a good trick that I use, because there is the boot and then you have the actual spark plug cable. Just place the boot on the spark plug cable, seating that up on there correctly, finding the center of your spark plug boot, and then just a nice firm push, and that seats the actual boot, and it also seats the actual spark plug cable back into its location. Okay, so let's go over the fuel filter maintenance. There's 2 fuel filters built into the actual generator. One of them is a maintenance-free fuel filter. That's located in the bottom of the gas tank where the fuel departs from the gas tank, and that is maintenance-free, so you should not need to access that at all. The second fuel filter is important to make sure you check it and make sure it's clean at all times, and it's actually in the place at the top of the gas tank. Very easy to access the fuel filter. So you just unthread the gas cap, remove the fuel filter, and it'll just pop right out of the top. It's going to look like this, basically a screen component that looks like a little cage. You're going to want to inspect to make sure there's no particulate inside of the filter. Make sure it's visibly clean. If you do need to clean it, use gasoline in reverse to flush out any particulate out of the underside of the actual fuel filter. At the time that you've determined that it's nice and clean, you just place the fuel filter back into the top of the male receiver in the gas tank, just watching your gas tank cap chain, and reinstall your gas cap for complete filter maintenance. Now let's get on to changing the oil. So you'll notice below the dipstick, you're going to see a funnel that's going to lead down into the bottom of the generator's casing. Place your finger right down in that lower portion of it, and you're going to feel a rubber cap. So you want to push down on that rubber cap, and it'll push out through the bottom of the generator, and it'll hang off of its own little strap hanging up the bottom. So that'll allow the oil to leak down through that funnel, down through the bottom of the generator, which is a really great feature. You're not making a huge mess. At this point, you're going to want to take your oil catchment pan and locate that catchment pan down underneath that hole. Then you're going to need your ratchet, a 6mm or 6-inch socket extension, and a 10mm socket. You'll find the oil plug just below the actual dipstick, and you're going to want to move to ratcheting that off, backing it off. When you're doing this, have in your mind that there is an aluminum crush washer on this bolt, so make sure you don't lose that down in the bottom of the pan. You're going to want to retain that for when you reinstall. Great. So now we have oil flow. You're going to want to remove the plug completely, and we'll just give it a few minutes to drain completely out of the oil pan. So now we've given it some time to drain the oil pan completely empty of oil. Let's move into plug in the hole back up and a reinstallation of the oil. So at this point, you're going to want to reinstall the oil plug, making sure that the aluminum crush washer is seated behind the bolt. So you can just hand thread that in there and then move to your ratchet. Continue to tighten that down. And you're going to notice the aluminum crush washer will start to flatten out. Once it's completely flat against the casing, you've tightened it to the proper amount. So we have that all plugged up. At this point, I kind of like to get rid of the old oil that you've utilized. And so by pulling that canister out there, and you can see the color, that was time for it to change, we move that off to the side. Also, a good thing to do so you don't forget is to reinstall the rubber plug in the bottom of the mold. So you don't forget to do that down the road. And that'll just clip right up in and sit flush with the bottom of the mold. Okay. So we've got it all tightened up. So you want to remove your dipstick. Put that off to the side. Grab a funnel. Place a funnel in there. A good tip at this point is that the generator requires 0.6 liters of oil, and that's SAE 10W30. So a good tip would be to pour that amount into a measuring cup and directly pour that into there. For the demonstration, I'm just going to free pour the right amount, checking it at several intervals to make sure that I'm getting the right amount. So we'll just start with that. Great. So we have the desired 0.6 liters of oil in the crankcase. We're going to remove that funnel. Check it for one last check to make sure that the oil is at the correct level. And as we can see here, it's below the maximum fill line, but up past 3/4, so basically at the second diamond. We are at the right oil level and ready to proceed. So thread the oil dipstick back into the casing. Give everything a clean up. You want to make sure that any residual drips or residue from the oil change is cleaned up. Now at this point, I would rebutton up your actual casing on the gen set and start and run the generator for about half an hour's run time. At this point, there is a door on the back of the mold that you can access the dipstick without having to remove the entire back cover. After the half an hour, check to make your oil still at the right level. It hasn't exceeded its at the correct level, and the oil service is completed. I hope you found this video helpful. If you're interested in watching our new videos or content, make sure you subscribe to our channel and give us a like. If you have any questions about this maintenance procedure, call our technical support line or visit our website. This is Jay, and I'll see you next time.